and welcome to another Minecraft video and another discussion video. Today's topic is Dune, the 2021 movie, because I just watched it last night and I thought it was pretty good. It's got a lot of questions, or it's got me asking a lot of questions, and I'm hoping the next movie is going to be good too. But I'd like to just talk about my thoughts when I think of the movie, what I like, what I don't like, the things that have confused me, because a lot of things have confused me. And yeah. I guess for starters, I will do a little description of the movie's events. Spoilers ahead, by the way, just so you know. The movie introduces the viewer to the planet Arrakis, which is otherwise called Dune. It's a giant desert planet, and it houses the most important material in the universe, spice. It's this, drug that gives you longer life. It powers all of their spaceships, so interstellar travel would be completely useless without spice. So on Arrakis, the various houses of the universe, which are these different families that all rule the universe, they come to Arrakis and mine the spice, while also attacking the indigenous people of the planet called the Fremen. And the introduction of the movie shows I believe they're called the Harkonnen house, attacking the planet. Or not attacking the planet, but mining spice and then getting ambushed by some Fremen. The fighting is pretty interesting because despite it being a sci-fi movie, everybody there fights with melee combat. And that is due to the specific type of technology they have. It's like a type of armor that makes it so that high-speed objects just completely, all of their momentum is destroyed. So in order to kill somebody, you have to use slower weapons, like swords. So a lot of it's just melee combat. It's very nice, too. Very well choreographed. They do have some ranged combat, but it's only between, vehicles. They still blow up each other's, buildings or whatever, using rockets and whatnot. I guess they haven't developed tech that good yet. But after the Harkonnens finish mining the spice, we're then introduced to the main character, Paul, who is the son of Duke Leto Atreides. And Leto is apparently being assigned to Arrakis by the Emperor of the universe, who the story does not explain anything about him. There's very little information known about the Emperor, at least in the movie. So that's somebody who needs to be introduced in the next movie, or movies. But Leto and the other members of House Atreides head off to Arrakis to mine the spice. Now, Leto is a little bit kinder of a ruler than the Harkonnens, so he tries to make friends with the Fremen. Although it turns out that the entire reason he was even assigned to this planet was actually so that the Harkonnens could ambush them and try to destroy House Atreides on this planet. Because the Emperor was afraid of the growing power of House Atreides. So once everybody gets blown the crap up, Paul and his mother Jessica are left pretty much alone. Almost everybody is dead. As far as I know, everybody is dead, and it's just them two. And they have to try and live amongst the Fremen and, I guess, rebuild or whatever. And that's pretty much where the movie ends, with Paul and Jessica traveling with the Fremen to who knows where. I mean, it's left me wanting more. Like, I didn't expect it to end so pretty much almost abruptly. Like, we get all this crazy action, and then it just kind of stops with a cliffhanger, wondering where they're going to go to next. Wondering who is actually still alive. So I will say the aesthetic of the movie is very interesting, because it is, half the time it's super cool sci-fi with like spaceships and hyperspace and all sorts of other stuff, but then sometimes it's like you're watching like a medieval era movie where there's no tech. The characters don't have phones, they don't have like holo projectors or anything like that. In order to communicate with other houses, you have to like manually travel there and whip out a scroll and like talk to them normally. You got these crazy spaceships, but you don't have any long distance communicators, which is kind of weird. From what I read online, or not read, what I heard online is that the reason that they do that is because the Emperor has like outlawed computers, I guess, to weaken the other houses. So that's interesting. But going back to the aesthetic, if you're interested in like Destiny, which is a game by Bungie, you'll really enjoy some of the armor designs in this game or movie. Like the still suits, which is a type of spacesuit they wear to survive in the heat of the desert, look like hunters. They've got these cool cloaks and lightweight armor, and it's very aesthetically pleasing. The ships are, I mean, they're pretty standard sci-fi. They do have some cool looking designs, like the starships that fly through the, like, that they use to actually travel through the universe. They remind me of whale sharks. They're like gigantic tubes. Like there's nothing on the inside. So very weird, but very cool. They're almost like a toilet paper roll flying through the stars. They've got ornithopters, which are like helicopters, but they're shaped like dragonflies. Those are pretty cool. The Bene Gesserit, which is this organization of basically lady wizards, their ships are like upside down pyramids with a bunch of lights coming off of them. The entire aesthetic of the movie is trippy. Like everything looks over the top yet minimalist. Like there are very few colors used. Like I'm pretty sure I've seen almost nothing but black and tan for the entire movie. And the first half of the movie is spent with just kind of introducing characters and the different houses, and with like no action. I think a movie I could compare this to is, I would almost compare it to Episode 3 of Star Wars. It's definitely not as vibrant, but it has a lot of the same political like story beats. Like it's very focused on the events around the universe. It introduces us to House Harkonnen, House Atreides, the like rivalry between the two of them. and all the deceit going through them. Like, it makes it pretty clear that none of these houses are particularly fond of each other. They're all in it for power and whatever. Classic sci-fi stuff. Everybody wants to kill each other. Isn't it fun? Paul is an interesting character because I'm not exactly sure what his story is about, because at the beginning of the story, his main shtick is that he doesn't really want to become a leader. But he very quickly steps into the role and even argues that he'd like to try and become the emperor of the universe almost immediately after crap hits the fan. So I'm not exactly sure what his story is actually going to be about. I kind of get the feeling that he doesn't seem to have a lot of friends. Like, I think one of the only close friends he has is Duncan, who's like a military leader, or either a military leader or a high-ranking soldier or something. He's one of the only non-uptight members of Atreides. Like, he's not worried about being super formal. But of course, he dies. And he dies in the exact same way that Paul predicted he would, because Paul has a strange ability to see visions of the future. That ability is pretty much not explained. At first I thought it was a part of his other ability called the Voice, that he was born with due to his mother, who also has the Voice, which is like this universe's version of the Force from Star Wars, where it gives you the power to just like command the world around you. The Voice in particular, you can tell somebody to do something and they'll do it. And Paul's mother, Jessica, is constantly like training him to use the Voice. And so, while I do get the idea, the feeling that she cares about him, she seems more focused on training him to use the Voice rather than just be his mother. So she seems to take this Voice stuff very seriously. And when the Bene Gesserit find out that she's been training him, they get mad, because apparently the Bene Gesserit only want women to use the Voice. They don't want men to do that. I don't remember the exact explanation they gave, and I'm not sure they did give an explanation. But for whatever reason, they don't like that. But the reason that Jessica has been training Paul, despite knowing that she's not supposed to, is because she thinks he's the one. Basically like Space Jesus. Somebody who's supposed to be super powerful and is going to do something great. And when they get to Arrakis, all the people there are like practically worshipping Paul, because they all think he is the one. But he's not super stoked about being dragged into this weird space wizard stuff. His father, on the other hand, is a little bit lighter on him, because Leto, his father, is training him to become a duke. But when Paul argues that he may not want to do that, his father takes it in stride. He's like, alright, fair enough. I mean, I still think you're gonna make for a great duke, but if you don't want to, you'll still be the only thing I ever needed you to be. My son. And I'm like, aw, that's nice. That's a nice guy right there. Of course he dies. All the nice people die in this movie. If somebody's nice, they're going to die. That's just that's part of the rules. Nice people die in this movie. And earlier when I mentioned that Paul can see visions of the future, it's not clear how, how accurate his visions are. Because his vision of how Duncan died was accurate. But he also had visions of another character called Jamis, which is a Fremen, and he sees these visions of Jamis teaching him how to live in the desert. And when Paul finally meets Jamis, he thinks that's what's going to happen, but instead he ends up having to fight Jamis because the Fremen don't easily accept Paul. And they claim that if he wants to be part of the Fremen, he has to fight one of their own and take his place. And Jamis is the warrior they chose to fight him, and Paul ends up winning the fight and killing him. So his prediction of, being friends with Jamis was completely wrong. Which makes me wonder how his predictions work. I'm guessing it's going to be something along the lines of they are just predictions. None of it's guaranteed. These are just possible futures. And it's still up to Paul to make sure that these futures actually come true. I think the cool thing about the visions, though, is that even though Paul never actually became friends with Jamis, he was able to use these fake scenarios to help himself, because he saw himself being trained by Jamis. So when he was trapped in the desert, he was able to use the teachings that this fake Jamis taught him in order to survive. So the visions are pretty useful. I do like the visions, or not the visions, the voice, because it reminds me a lot of Code Geass. The main character has the ability to, if he looks you in the eye, he can command you to do whatever he wants, which is basically what the voice is. And so, I imagine there's going to be a lot of moments where Paul uses the voice to command people. He does the scene where Lelouch says, what's the scene where he's like, Lelouch v Britannia commands you, kill yourself, and then all these soldiers all turn their guns to themselves and die. Paul's probably going to pull some crap like that. I am interested in knowing what Paul's plans are, because despite him saying that he didn't want to become a duke, once the Harkonnens attacked and Paul was on the run, he was trying to convince some lady to help him get in contact with the Emperor so that he could try and gain the Emperor's favor. And using that power, he could help the Fremen avoid the oppression of the Harkonnens. So it's kind of weird that Paul is so quick to become a leader. That almost feels... It feels a little anticlimactic, I thought he was going to go through a whole long character arc, but he just kind of immediately says, yeah, I'm going to become a leader. I'm going to become Emperor of the whole dang universe. So I'm assuming that isn't his main struggle that he's going to go through. that probably something else is going to become important. But I can't think what it might be. In fact, it could be his own ambition. The fact that he's so quick to be willing to conquer. I mean, honestly, this story could go in a lot of directions because, if I recall, there's at least like 5 different houses in the story. So we've only seen 2 houses, and the Emperor has had like no interaction. So there's no telling what he's up to and what he's all about. That's pretty much my main thoughts for the movie. I think until I choose to read the books or watch, or when the next movie comes out, there's not much else for me to talk about. This movie definitely holds back a lot. Like, it does not give a lot of information. It's very mysterious. It just kind of leaves you to sit there and think and mull over whatever it does show you. I mean, after all, the movie covers, I think, only just the first chapter of the book. So there's still a lot left to discover. I'm curious to know what the origins of this universe are, because so far there are no aliens other than the sandworms. Which, I didn't even mention the sandworms yet. They are these gigantic creatures that just suck everything in around them. And they are sensitive to sound. So in order to travel through the desert, you have to walk in a very specific way that simulates the rolling of the dunes so that the worm doesn't notice you. Very scary watching Paul and Jessica have to, like, walk across the desert super carefully. Because, I mean, once the worm's on your tail, there is basically nothing you can do. It's way faster than you, and it swallows in everything around you. Like a black hole. I'm really impressed with how much they were able to do with so little. Like, it's not like they showed tons of content. They were very careful not to show a bunch of stuff. Yet I was still invested. Check something. Alright, this seems like a pretty good stopping point. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you later. Bye.